Welcome to the Upper Room. This is where we talk about the current events that are happening in the world as we continue to experience wars and experiencing rumors of wars. We discuss how we are still experiencing protests and demonstrations around the nation and around the globe. And all of this stems from a sense of separation, separated from our good. But here at the Upper Room, we talk about how we may be healing agents of the planet. So we take a look at the earth from a bird's eye view. Here at the Upper Room, we encourage you to embrace your identity, embody your spirituality, enhance your humanity because the world needs you now. Welcome to the Upper Room. Welcome, everybody to the Upper Room. I am your host, Eugene Holden, and I am happy to be here with you as we continue to dive deeper and fly higher. And today I am really happy to have on for our special guest, my dear friend, Reverend Tawana Malone. Let me give you a little background about this beautiful human being, this divine human being. Reverend Tawana Malone is a master of consciousness. She is an ordained minister. She is a teacher. She is a counselor. She is a life coach who has been a student of New Thought for more than 25 years. Reverend Tawana worked in hospice as a chaplain for 9 years. So, doing that work is such a deep, heart giving experience. Born in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. She traveled the world with her family as a child while her parents served in the United States Army. And as an adult, Reverend Tawana Malone served in the United States Air Force for 7 years. Reverend Tawana was introduced to New Thought in 1997, then later joined the Center of Peace, Centers for Spiritual Living in 2001. Reverend Tawana has received her practitioner's license in 2006 and graduated from Holmes Institute, completing her ministerial studies in 2015. In 2017, Reverend Tawana Malone was installed as a senior minister and spiritual director at the Center of Peace, Centers for Spiritual Living. I bring to you today Reverend Tawana Malone. Good afternoon, my sister. How are you?
Good afternoon, Eugene. I'm doing well, and how are you?
I'm doing great, doing great.
Good.
So, welcome, to this podcast called The Upper Room. So, one of the questions that I like to ask is, as we know, there seems to be there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of strife that seems to be happening in the world. What, in your perspective, what in your opinion, do you attribute that to?
Well, I would say, I guess, a couple of things that comes to mind for me. And the first thing is that there's always been strife in the world, and will always be strife in the world. And there's always been chaos in the world. So I guess my mind always has to get wrapped back around the fact that it's nothing new. Maybe we are experiencing it in a new way. And I'm always, I like to try to bring things back to a point or an area where I can do something with it. So the chaos and the strife that exists, I go back and ask myself, where is chaos and strife? Where does it exist within me? And if I can get it close enough to me where I can do something with it, then perhaps my attempt to do something with it will have a larger effect outside of my life. I can see something then and go back to my own experience of moving through the chaos and strife and try to make a difference for myself and perhaps for others. So that's number one for me. And then number two, I think a part of it too is that people are to engage and find a greater sense and meaning to life these days. I think, maybe the last 10, 15 years, we have been in such a race to get things. And now I think people are, and part of it I think is due to COVID, where people are not working as much as they used to, and people are reevaluating, work and letting go of the drive and all these different things that people are doing. But what's at the hub of that is the meaning, I believe, that we all got from getting to spend more time doing the things that matter with the people that matter to us. So that's my perspective. Your intro said a bird's eye perspective. That's kind of my perspective of things.
Yeah. I like that question. When we talk about, there's always been strife, there's always been chaos. In the question, where is that showing up within me? Because that's actually a pretty deep question, because the implications of that are what's showing up within me is also being reflected out there. If there is an out there, if you know what I mean, right? And so how do I, once I can identify if there's, when there's chaos within me, it's interesting. When there's chaos within me, then when we start to think about it, let me put it this way. When we start to think about it, when there's chaos within me, I find myself in experiences that are chaotic. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because it took me a while to catch that, that deep, profound concept. But then once we catch it, we can go, okay, so now what can I do to heal the chaos? What is the cause of it? How can I heal this? And then and then have the willingness to do something different.
Yeah, for sure, because there's our own chaos, and we might, maybe perhaps through our spiritual practices and the work that we get to do on ourselves, we can find peace within our own chaos, and maybe then our world, a chaotic world, is not reflected to us in our small world. And then there's the collective consciousness, and maybe there isn't a whole lot I can do to slow the chaos down or to make sense out of the chaos. However, I can move into it with a great sense of awareness, not to add to the chaos.
Right.
And what if we had a whole bunch of people with that mindset, not to add to it?
Yeah. What if, right? What if? What if we added a lot of what if there were a lot more people? And I think that's what's happening too. That more and more people, and as you mentioned, especially over the last 15 years. Now I'm saying since 2008 specifically, because this nation went through a major change with the election of the first African American president, and then what a great change that began. And then after that, the ninth year, after 2008 in the second term, and then we have another change, right? And it's not so much about the personalities. It's not about President Barack Obama, and it's not so much about President Donald Trump. Although we can talk about those personalities, but for me, those individuals provided the space for so much stuff to come up, especially from 2012, and that there's so much junk, so much no, I don't want to say junk, so much hurt that wanted to be healed. Let me put it like that. And so when we look at it on a global way, right? I may not be able to do anything in terms of the world in healing all of that, and in the nation, the entire nation. But what can I do? I love what you said. Let me not be a part of the problem. Let me be a part of the solution, just in my own little world, just in my own little small world. Yeah, it's interesting where I live. I was giving a talk about a year ago, whatever it was, and there were four C's in becoming whatever we were going to become, and that takes clarity, takes compassion, it takes commitment, and then the last C came to me the night before the talk, and it was the Confederate flag. Because right down the street, there's a house that has that flag out there, and my very first reaction, because it was a reaction, was like, "What the heck," you know? But I'm like, okay, wait a minute. If I am committed to being who I am to be, if I am to have, let me get clear on who I am to be, and if I am to have compassion, then I need to change the way that I look at this,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, wow. So that was a beautiful way for me to wake up to my own biases too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you said that, it made me think about how important it is to sometimes to close our eyes, because our eyes guide us to look for the differences right away.
Yes.
And immediately the eyes job is to seek and find anything that might be harmful, anything that might be different, right? So if we don't want to say harmful, maybe we say anything that might be different, anything that might be unfamiliar, and then the eyes is shooting to the brain, whatever it is, whatever it's shooting to the brain, which usually is some sort of action. Leave. Think, oh, what is this? That sort of thing. However, when we can close our eyes, our outer eye, and start to uh, reflect with our inner eye, we can begin to come together. And even if it's just a little bit that we come together, we make a connection. And really, that doesn't require any other person. Oftentimes, if I can get back to just a real sense of humanity, maybe I don't know those people, and maybe it's
Right.
good that I don't know those people. Maybe it's some people that I should know, but at the core of it, there is humanity to be honored. You know, I mean, if you are in a spiritual teaching, then there's also the teaching to be practiced, right? And that practice, for me, recently I've been asking myself, how not really asking myself, but just getting clear that there's no place or no body that is not reflecting the face of God.
Hmm.
No situation, no circumstance, nothing is not a reflection of God. How can, in other words, how can I not see God in fill in the blank?
Right. Yeah. Whew. And that takes, number one, a willingness to do that, and then it takes the courage, to do that. How can I not see God in whatever it is?
Yeah,
And I think the first thing that we as a species more and more are to really do is to recognize that we all want the same things. We really all want the same things. We want not just food and shelter and clean water, not just that. That's the basic. But
yeah,
we all want to be loved. We all want to love. We all want to share in this thing called joy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
When you said that, it made me think about a story I often tell about. I was asked to officiate a funeral for a gentleman that I didn't know. This was while I was working in hospice. And so the family called and asked me if I would officiate the funeral, and I said yes. And I asked the family if we could meet so that I could learn something about their loved one. And so the daughters, we set a time to meet, and the daughters showed up. And so, I said, tell me a little bit about your dad. And immediately they all go, he was the worst individual, the worst human being in the world. And they went on to tell me about all the reasons why they believed he was like to describe him in that way. And so they talked and talked and talked, and eventually they did get to the point where they shared with me his love of football. And they went on to tell me all about that, and all I could hear was the word love. And they told me about how much he enjoyed it. And all I could hear was the word joy. And so, to your point, even people who are seemingly the worst people, that our mind could conjure up, insensitive, not compassionate, not caring, all these things, still want the same thing: love and joy.
Yeah. Yeah. Joy. Joy. And I love that vibration of joy, and thank you for that that experience that you had, and for sharing that with us. Joy, like love, like peace, it's contagious, because we all really, I believe that we all have a sense of what that feels like, what joy feels like. Of course, we have a sense of what joy feels like, especially when we remember when we were kids, right? Just natural joy, natural born joy. And then just remembering how all of that feels, and then to share that. One of the things I love doing, it's just a natural state of being for me, is walking into a store, a place of business, and just saying, "Hey, how are you today?" And what I love doing is that I'm fine, and so how are you? And I'll stop and pause and go, "Yeah, I'm pretty good." Right? But in doing that, that has them, because of the pause, because of that space. They're waiting to see what I'm going to say. Most people, I believe, think that I'm going to say, "Oh, it's not so good." Nope. It's like, nope. I just had to check in head to toe to make sure that, yeah, I must admit, I think that was you who said that to me. I must admit, I'm good. Was that you?
Yeah, I think I did say something like that.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm good.
I am good.
Yeah. Yeah. So with your position as spiritual director of a community, and you've been doing that for some time now, right? For 6 years? No, when was that?
Yeah, well, I took over in 2017.
17, yeah. Whew. Woo-wee. So what are some, because I know as a spiritual director of a thriving community, there are things that just come, right? It's called life. How do you deal with those things in your life, not just as the senior minister, but with everything else in life? How do you deal with that stuff that comes your way?
Well, I think you're right. Things do come and life does happen inside the community and outside of the community. I think it goes back to, as I said before, each of us, we really do have to define what is meaningful and ascribe some meaning to life around our relationships, the things that we are doing, kind of asking ourselves, why am I doing the thing that I am doing? And I think without having defined some sense of meaning to who you are being and what you are doing, that as life happens, without that, you can easily fall into life and the things that are happening, and then seek and search for blame, or seek and search for something other than getting back to the meaning. So for me, having meaning, understanding for myself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Well, I'm doing what I'm doing on a daily basis because I know for a fact that this teaching has changed my life. I don't question it. I know for a fact. And so if it it's true for me. I know it's true for others because there's nothing special about me. And why do I do it? That's a part of my why I do it. And I've decided that I want to be a beneficial presence. And I want to be a part of, be associated with, and spend my time with events and people and organizations whose intent is to be a beneficial presence. And that just spans out for me because it doesn't mean one thing. There's no one way for me to be a beneficial presence. Waking up in the morning and doing my spiritual practices could lead to being a beneficial presence. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, or on a Sunday, somebody walking into the building and perhaps my greeting them could be beneficial. Or perhaps it's in the songs that we've selected. It could be beneficial. Or perhaps it's something that's said in the classroom. It could be beneficial. Or perhaps it's something that's said outside of the classroom. It could be beneficial. Perhaps just being there, my presence, can be beneficial. Perhaps it is in the message that could be beneficial. Or on the way out, as we're driving out, perhaps I glance at someone or someone glances at me. It can be beneficial. That's outside of the house. Inside of the house, I wake up and ask myself, how can I be beneficial in my relationship? And what do I need to let go of today, that I can be more beneficial? And then when I get that guidance, then it's up to me to follow it. And then I can work with it all day. Whatever has showed itself for me to let go of so that I can be more beneficial. But being beneficial and making a difference wherever I am is such meaning. It's meaningful to me. It's a generous way to live life.
Yeah. I'm just making some notes here because that takes me to, I love how this segues into my next question, which were, so what are some of the tools that you would, give? And you just did, you gave three of them actually just now, and that's these are great. These are two great questions. How can I be beneficial? How can I be someone who gives to the community or the planet or whatever, however we want to word that? But how can I be beneficial? And I love this one. What can I let go of today that no longer serves me?
I recently changed the wording to that. I was asking myself for a long time, what am I willing to let go of? And more recently, I've changed it to, what am I ready to let go of?
Yeah. Yeah. What am I ready to let go of? What am I ready to let go of?
Today.
And then,
right now.
Yeah, right now, today, right now, right? Well, I'm ready to let go of it tomorrow. No, what about now? Okay. Well, that'll be the last time. No, let's make the last time the last time. Right? Let's make the last time the last time. But those two questions, how can I be beneficial? What am I ready to let go of? And then be willing to follow. To be willing to follow, to be willing to listen to the answers that come up, because they will, if we're willing to hear them, and then be willing to follow that direction. Yeah. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Recently, what came up in asking, what am I ready to let go of, is feeling with my heart and not with my head. Feeling with my heart and not with my hands. So all day, I get to explore, something that's not familiar. We feel with our hands, it's familiar. We feel with our heads, that's familiar. But feeling with our heart.
Yeah. I would venture to say, Twana, that filling with, well, let me just speak for myself. In the past, it not now. Maybe a little bit, every once in a while it comes up, but filling in the past, filling with my heart was challenging.
Yeah.
Because the mind says that your heart might be broken, your heart might get hurt. Well, I've come to learn that it's not the heart that is broken, it's the ego that is broken. But to feel with our heart, yeah. Who talk about becoming beneficial, but not only beneficial, but being an open conduit.
Mm. Yeah, because when you open up to let it all in, having an open heart is so significant because things can only come in if it's open, and things can only go out if it's open.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's just how it is.
That's just how it is.
So are we willing to be open? Right? That's the question sometimes I have. Am I ready? Am I ready to be open now? What am I ready to let go of today? Am I open to doing that? Am I open to being that?
Yeah.
Whew. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. One more question for you, Rev.
Okay.
What would you like people to know before we leave? What would you like? Yeah, what would you want people to know?
What would I want people to know? As if this was all right, this is it. I don't know. I mean, what's coming to mind is truly this idea that we are not alone.
Mm.
That we can never be separate and apart from life. We can never be separate and apart from love. If I could tell that, just a flurry of faces of people who I know and love are coming running through my mind as I'm thinking, well, really, what would I want them to know? I would want them to know that you're not alone and that life is for you and not against you.
Yeah.
I think that, is what I would want people to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because so many people that I've come across throughout the years, and even which includes myself throughout the years, have felt separate from life, which is an interesting thing that you can't be separate from life. But, and all alone.
Yeah.
Like nobody cares. But I love that we are not alone. That we are not alone. Yeah. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been my pleasure and my honor.
Thank you so very much for being here. And I'm sure that I'm going to have you back if you are open and willing to be back here in the upper room. Yeah. Great. Reverend Twana Malone, thank you so much. Everybody tuning in, thank you for tuning in. And remember, you are not alone. We will speak with you soon. Remember that the Upper Room airs every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Peace and blessings.